Good morning, students. Last class we discussed about Carnot cycle, reversed Carnot cycle for refrigeration effect. We are capable to run or not. What are the impracticalities related to implementation of reversed Carnot cycle for refrigeration or air conditioning facility for working as a heat pump or refrigerator? The first impracticality is two-phase compression expansion practically not possible. So, if I want to eliminate this one, then heat rejection at constant temperature process not possible. So, for that, we are doing heat rejection. Compression expansion we will do in isoentropic process only. Why? Because there is no heat loss. Theoretically assumption there is no heat loss. Whatever the internal energy expansion will convert as a work, or whatever the work we are giving, total will act as a utilization of rise of internal energy. There is no heat interactions. So for getting that one single phase compression, heat rejection we can assume as a constant pressure process. Heat rejection we can assume as a constant pressure process. That's the first. Heat supply and heat rejection like vapor power cycle. Here also we will assume constant pressure process. Heat rejection at condenser constant pressure process above ambient. Heat absorption below ambient temperature at evaporator at a constant pressure process. Then we can eliminate the compression and expansion process in single phase we can get. Second modification. What is the necessity of expansion of liquid? By liquid expansion, you will not get. I already in power plants we solved 3-4 problems. The turbine expansion is 600 kilojoules per kg. Pump work requirement for the same pressure limits is 3 kilojoules per kg or 4 kilojoules per kg. Not 10 kilojoules per kg. No problem. Where is 600? Where is 15 or 10? So while liquid expansion we will get less energy output. For vapor compression we required high energy output, high energy input. So requirement is very high. By expansion we are not producing that much. Then we can remove that component, unnecessary component. And that expansion instead of isoentropy process, we can move in isoenthalpy process. We kept enthalpy is constant. We are reducing the pressure from condenser pressure to evaporator pressure. Our target reduce the pressure of the condensed liquid from condenser pressure to evaporator pressure. What is the necessity? To absorb the heat. We are reducing the pressure, temperature is reducing. But because inside the cycle, the specific volume of the mediator, the working fluid is not changing. The working fluid we are not changing, there is the same mass, specific volume is there, meter cube per kg. Then we are reducing the pressure means automatically it will reduce the temperature. We are increasing the pressure means automatically we can increase the temperature. For increasing temperature we are using isoentropic compression. But expansion we can substitute by isoenthalpy process. Enthalpy is constant, just I am reducing the pressure from condenser to evaporator because to absorb the heat. That is only target. So with these two modifications, the first ideal vapor compression refrigeration cycle is proposed. In Carnot cycle, heat absorption, heat rejection replaced instead of isothermal process, were replaced by constant pressure process. Isothermal process is replaced by constant pressure process. And second modification, instead of turbine, why? Because the work output of turbine is negligible amount. Instead of turbine, we placed expansion valve, throttle valve, capillary tube. Our intention without change the enthalpy, I want to reduce the pressure of working fluid from condenser pressure to evaporator pressure. Once it is reaching evaporator pressure, at low temperatures are creating evaporator and absorbing the heat in the evaporator. Then you see the working principle of ideal vapor compression refrigeration cycle. Here, the compression is taking place from the evaporator to condenser, the vapor, the saturated vapor. Evaporator outlet is saturated vapor is entering into the compressor. It is compressing the vapor, saturation vapor at evaporator pressure to the superheated vapor at condenser pressure. Okay. Then after heat rejection in condenser is taking place. First, heat is sensible heat is rejected from superheated to the saturated vapor. Then latent heat is rejection is taking place in condenser. So whatever the pressure, condenser pressure we are maintaining, this latent heat temperature is important for us. This temperature always above the ambient we have to maintain. Otherwise, the superheated temperature always above ambient. I am maintaining this latent heat temperature of the condenser. I am placing below ambient means heat rejection will not take place. So same refrigerant I can't use for the cyclic operation. So this latent heat temperature always higher than the ambient temperature, at least 4 to 5 degrees, means you want to maintain more compression ratio. What happen for local refrigerators or air conditioners? It is working with low cost. We are getting maybe 20,000, 15,000, also 1.5 ton we are getting. What they are doing? This condenser pressure they are not maintaining that much of high. Then these air conditioned systems will work in summer, will work in winter very good with very good performance. It will work in winter very good performance. Because in winter or rainy season the ambient temperatures are low, the condenser temperature is high, very good. But once we come to the summer case, that much of compression ratio you are not maintained, then heat rejection will not take place. Cycle refrigerant is rotating, but absorption of heat is not taking place. So our intention, our refrigeration or air conditioning system want to work in summer or winter. If you want you effectively summer, then you maintain this latent heat temperature always higher than the summer temperature, not average temperature. If you select average temperature, summer performance is poor. You have to select summer temperature. Summer temperature, some of the times we are getting 45 to 49, 48 also it is coming. So more than the temperature, condenser temperature is there, then only your system will work in summer. Otherwise it will work in winter only. Then it is moving to the saturated liquid. Then heat rejection will, the saturation liquid, we are expanding, reducing pressure by isoenthalpy process to evaporate. While end of the expansion, saturation liquid is not coming, wet vapor is coming. That wet vapor is entering into the evaporator and absorbing heat. That wet vapor is entering into the evaporator and absorbing heat and convert as a saturated vapor. That saturated vapor again entering into the compressor. This cyclic operation is taking place. Here we are supplying work. So the work input H2 minus H1, enthalpy at end of the work input minus enthalpy at entry H2 minus. Heat rejection in the condenser H2 minus H3 and heat absorption in the evaporator H1 minus H4. But isoenthalpy process we are moving, so H3 equal to H4 you are getting, so H1 minus H3. Simple. Steady flow energy equation only we are applying. So for 1 to 2 isoentropic compression in the compressor, 2 to 3 constant pressure heat rejection in the condenser, 3 to 4 theoretical throttling in the expansion device, 2 to 1 constant pressure heat absorption. These are the substitutes. Then apply the steady flow energy equation and work interactions of the energy interactions of each component. Compressor I have already mentioned. Compressor outlet by compressor inlet enthalpy, condenser inlet minus condenser outlet enthalpy, evaporator outlet minus evaporator inlet enthalpy, Then H1 at evaporator pressure, saturation vapor. From the refrigeration tables, that word I am not using, working fluid, because next I will discuss thoroughly about refrigerator especially. So H1 at evaporator pressure, from the working fluid tables, saturated vapor enthalpy we are extracting, like steam tables. Here also we are extracting saturated vapor enthalpy. H2 at constant pressure, superheated vapor enthalpy. At superheated vapor enthalpy, at condenser pressure we are extracting H3. H3 at condenser pressure, saturation liquid enthalpy we are extracting. Then throttling, we already mentioned isoenthalpy process. So H3 equal to H4. We all knows the four enthalpies. Then COP of refrigeration, you see, desired effect by required input. The desired effect QL, what is the desired effect? You see, H1 minus H4 is the desired effect. Divide by the work input, H2 minus H1, that's all. H1 minus H4 divided by H2 minus H1. Or COP of heating, the desired effect, heat loss in the condenser, H2 minus H3 divided by the net work input, H2 minus H1. Simple performance equation. Once we know the working fluid name, we will take the data table of that working fluid at saturation levels and superheated levels, and we are extracting the properties. Okay. Then whatever the working fluid we are using in the cycle, reversed cycle, the clockwise cycle is called power generation cycle. Reversed clockwise means work absorption and heat transferring will takes place. Your desire is cooling or heating, that is different, but heat transfer will takes place in reversed cycle, reversed clockwise. That working fluid we will call as a refrigerant. For power cycles, we are not called refrigerant. We are calling working fluid. Here we are calling a refrigerant. From 1815's first refrigerant we used ethyl ether. The first refrigerant we used ethyl ether. Later ammonia came, carbon dioxide came, methyl chloride came, sulfur dioxide came, butane, ethane, propane, isobutane, gasoline. So many refrigerants we the time being we are using. But this many refrigerants after introducing to the industry, now also for heavy industry like dairy industry, ice making industry, where heavy cooling loads are required, we are using ammonia only. Industry, not commercial or domestic. Why? Because ammonia have highest COP based on these two working, the condenser and evaporator temperature limits. See, compared to other refrigerants, ammonia will give high efficiency. But ammonia is dangerous one, toxic. That's why we are not recommend for industry, not domestic and commercial. Separate engineering is required, separate maintenance is required. Okay. If for domestic and commercial, chlorofluorocarbons are introduced, R21 1928, R11, R12 1931, R15 is R115 and R22 in 1970. So many chlorofluorocarbons introduced. Finally, we identified 5% of the ozone layer damaged because of this chlorofluorocarbons. For human comfort, mechanical engineers developed refrigeration and air conditioning facility. But it is given human comfort in the short period of time, but long period it damaged the ozone layer. The ozone layer damage leads to skin cancers. The UV radiation percentage in solar radiation is increased. Earlier condition there is no UV radiation before introduction of the refrigeration air conditioning facility before 1850s. Now 5 to 10% of the UV radiation is coming from the sun to the earth. There is no filtration. Earlier condition ozone layer is filtered. So indirectly we are given human comfort or we damaged the environment. It's a question now. That's why some NBA accreditation there they are calling. Engineer have environment concerned also while they are developing something. Like automobile also. Starting stages we are not placed any pollution norms. After 1970s we started pollution norms. After polluted entire environment, we realized, oh, internal combustion engines are creating so much of pollution. We are unable to control. Then replace central combustion engines by electrical motors. At the time of introduction itself, automobile with electrical motors we can come. So the solutions, it is affecting the nature. That's why recently I think in India especially, NBA accreditation they are doing there. Some program outcomes they are defined. One of the program outcome, we have the concern about culture, environment and societal activities of the India. Without knowing we are doing or developing anything means there is no use. Now realized and introduced in education system also. So generally in competition exams or wherever we are moving to industry, they will give the name of the refrigerant. Simply they are giving name of the refrigerant. Based on the name of the refrigerant, we want to extract. Sorry, name. They will not give name. They will give number something. R717, R764, R744, R718, R729, R12, R22, R113, R134, R21. Like that, something they are giving some number. Based on the number, we have to extract the what is the refrigerant, name of the refrigerant. Once you know the name of the refrigerant, you can see the property tables or their diagram, enthalpy, entropy diagrams are available. Then we extract the property from that diagram. Our maximum refrigerant tables only available. That saturation tables and superheated tables. But based on the number only we can't name of the refrigerant required. Some classification I will explain. It is useful. First of all, refrigerants are two groups. One is organic group, second one is inorganic group. Organic group means methane or ethane group, means CH bonding. Organic group indirectly CH bonding. That's called CH bonding. Methane, ethane. Two groups only we have. Inorganic bonding without CH bonding. Carbon hydrogen bonding. We are giving R717, R764. Inorganic means first number will come 7. If 7 is coming means it is a inorganic group. R717, R764, R744 and R718 and next air R729. Next two digits is represents molecular weight. Ammonia molecular weight 17, SO2 molecular weight 64, CO2 molecular weight 44, H2O molecular weight 18, air molecular weight 29. So it is easy to recognize. Now we know the number means we can recall the any refrigerant inorganic region. 7 it is coming, it is inorganic region. Next two digits are molecular weight. These are the popular refrigerants in inorganic region. Coming to the organic region, one is methane group, second one is ethane. In methane group, one carbon requires 4 oxygen hydrogens. Ethane groups, 2 carbons required 6 hydrogens. The group indicates. Suppose R134A. Then how we can name? These all are called chlorofluorocarbons. Suppose at present we are using R134A. Why we are using also that conclusion also will to come and how the name is coming also we can see. Last digit represents number of fluorines. So R134, this last digit represent number of fluorines. So it contains 4 fluorines. We require 6 hydrogens. That 6 hydrogens for bonding we are replaced by 4 fluorines. Okay. Next digit represents hydrogen plus 1. Means hydrogen plus 1 is equal to 3 means hydrogen. How many hydrogen? Only 2. 3 minus 1, 2. So next digit represents H plus 1 hydrogens. So 2 hydrogens, 4 fluorines, 6 sufficient. 6 molecules are required. Here 2 hydrogen molecules and 4 fluorine molecules we substitute. Next, the last digit represents C minus 1. C minus 1 equal to 1. Then C equal to 1 plus 1 2, or here 0 is there. Suppose R21 means it is a 0, R22 means 0 22, R11 means 0 11. Then C minus 1 equal to 1 only. C minus 1 equal to 0 means C equal to 1 in the methane group. But here they given 1 means C minus 1 equal to 1, C equal to 2. So 2 carbons, R134 meanings 2 carbon, 2 hydrogens, 4 fluorines are there. There is no chlorine. Suppose we select R21. Suppose we select R21. Last digit represents fluorine, so 1 fluorine. Here hydrogen plus 1 equal to 2, so 1 hydrogen. 1 fluorine, 1 hydrogen. Last digit is 0, so C minus 1 0 means 1 carbon. 1 carbon requires 4 hydrogens, but we have 1 hydrogen and 1 fluorine. Remaining 2 molecules are fulfilled by the chlorine. That's why called chlorofluorocarbons. So now we banned the chlorofluorocarbons. Chlorine is the ozone layer depleting element. So we replaced chlorine by enhancing the number of fluorines. So now in commercial we are using fluorocarbons, not chlorofluorocarbons. Fluorocarbons we are using R134A is a popular refrigerant at present domestic and commercial applications. Okay. Next move to the our one problem. We'll solve one problem. Then we will get a clear idea how we can use the refrigeration tables and one problem is solved in this unit. The first one, a refrigerator uses refrigerant 134A. This is a refrigerant I already mentioned. This is universally accepted at present because there is no chlorine as the working fluid and operates an ideal vapor compression refrigeration cycle. So vapor compression only. Next, operating between 0.1 megapascal to 0.8 megapascal. So 0.1 megapascal means there is a evaporator pressure. 0.8 megapascal means it is a condenser pressure. Both they provide. If the mass flow rate of the refrigerant is 0.05 kg per second, they given mass flow rate also. If the mass flow rate of the refrigerant they given 0.05 kg per second. Next, determine first one the rate of heat removal from the refrigerant space. The rate of heat removal means H1 minus H4 into mass flow rate. Mass flow rate already given M into H1 minus H4 space and the power input to the compressor. The power input to the compressor they asked. So power input to the compressor means M into H2 minus H1. Second question, the rate of heat rejection to the environment. The second question they asked, the rate of heat rejected to the environment means M into H2 minus H3. This is the heat rejection in the condenser only there. And third question, the COP of refrigerant. COP of refrigerant we want to determine. COP, we know the heat absorption, heat rejection, work input, COP of refrigeration, COP of heat pump, everything we can calculate. Both we know means. Next, assume after compression refrigeration temperature is reaching to 40 degrees. The refrigerator temperature, this temperature means 0.8 megapascal and 40 degrees. This is the condition of the vapor, superheated vapor after compression. This is the assumption they give. So first of all we want to extract the properties at 0.14 megapascal, the saturation liquid, the saturation vapor, and 0.8 megapascal 40 degrees, 0.8 megapascal 40 degrees superheated enthalpy, and what is the T saturated temperature and what is the saturation liquid enthalpy at 0.8 megapascal. Next H3 equal to H4, then mass flow rate we know we can calculate. So open the refrigeration tables. This is the refrigeration tables we are using. So where is the 0.8 megapascal? Is first 0.14 megapascal. At 0.14 megapascal you can extract, yes, 0.14 megapascal you can extract the enthalpy is 0.14 megapascal. The saturation liquid and saturation gas enthalpy. Pressure 0.14 megapascal. The enthalpy of the saturation liquid and enthalpy of the saturation gas, but we require saturation gas only at 0.14 megapascal, 336. Next, 0.8 megapascal. Where is the 0.8 megapascal? This is the 0.8 megapascal, and at 40 degrees temperature, what is the enthalpy? This is the enthalpy 279. And at 0.8 megapascal saturation liquid, 0.8 megapascal saturation liquid enthalpy, how much is there? This saturated liquid 93. That's all. Simply we extracted the properties in both condition. 93 is isoenthalpy process, so H3 equal to H4. T saturation 31 degrees temperature, so superheat we extracted 273, and saturated vapor enthalpy 239. Then extract M into the heat removal, H1 minus H4, how much heat removal, and power input to the compressor, M into H2 minus H1, that is equal to 0.05 and 273.66 minus 239.16, 1.725 kilojoules per second. Next, rate of heat rejection to the environment, how much heat rejection condenser, H2 minus H3, 9.012 kilojoules per second. Then the COP of the refrigerator. COP of the refrigerator, you can see desired output by required input. The desired output 7.28 divided by required input 1.725. Then COP of refrigeration is 4.22. That's all. This is the ideal cycle. Okay. With this, we are ending today's topic. Tomorrow, we'll instead of ideal vapor compression cycle, compression refrigeration cycle, we will move to the actual vapor refrigeration cycle and vapor compression refrigeration cycle. Then after, we will discuss vapor absorption refrigeration cycle also. With this, we will complete the first part, vapor compression and vapor absorption refrigeration cycle. Thank you. Thank you.